Hello and welcome to exfidebibles. This is Ethan. So today I have a little bit of an impromptu video for the really new Bible rebinders out there. I'm currently in the process of rebinding this ESV wide margin Bible. This is a personal Bible of mine. And I'm in the process of gathering my measurements. And I think it's a good opportunity for me to share how I do things so that you can use what I do as a springboard to improve on my process and hopefully make fewer mistakes than I did when you're just starting out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I measure everything. So one of the things that I've started doing really ever since I picked up rebinding within the last 6 months is I've started keeping a notebook of all of a bunch of different rebinding information. So in here I have different standard measurements that other rebinders have mentioned in videos and on the Bible Rebinder support group on Facebook, as well as even some pictures of some other people's work that I admire and want to, improve upon and kind of integrate into my process. So, here's a just making sure you can see that. Here's a Bible from AE Bibles, and I printed out a picture of a rebind of a Cambridge Clarion, and I really liked how he laid out his hubs here. He laid out the first hub at the top of the spine, a consistent distance from where the block is underneath the cover, as well as, at the tail here. I really liked his spine placement, or his spine hub placement here. So I just take notes in this, and I also keep, like, here's a couple pictures from Jeremiah Payne's videos he did a bunch of tutorials on Bible rebinding, and I printed out these and kind of made some notes on how he marks for his covers and everything. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So whenever I do a rebind, I take notes on a page, and including all of my measurements, all of the math I do, all of my final liner measurement. And I also lay out my lessons learned, things about that rebind that I didn't like and that I want to improve upon in upcoming rebinds. So obviously, you don't have to do it this way, but I wanted to give some tips on, that note-taking process. So here I've started gathering the measurements for this Bible, and I wanted to explain kind of each step. So when I go to start a rebind, I want to have a clear and concise plan of the rebind that I want to do. So my plan here for this Bible is that I want a standard 3/8 inch yap around the entire Bible, and I want a 1/4 inch fold over, which is what I've started doing on my recent rebinds. So I have decided ahead of time that I want to do thin hubs placed like my previous New King James rebind, and I'm kind of unsure at this point whether I want to do a perimeter stitch for this one or not. So really the brunt of what I wanted to talk about were these measurements down here. So I have found this system, or this way of laying things out, really helpful. This is kind of innovated off of a guy named Bibles by Drew on YouTube. He has a really helpful video on how to measure for Bible rebinds that just really helped me. And this system for measuring and calculating was significantly, I have him to thank, definitely. So let's just start going through these. So this long measurement here is the measurement. Obviously, every rebinder needs a tailor's tape. So this measurement, this first measurement, the long measurement, is the measurement. This is really hard to do with a camera. Obviously, I'm not going to get this super accurate, but this measurement is the long measurement. So that is going to be, if you're looking down at the Bible cover that's not on the block yet, that is the width, the longest measurement that you're going to have. So One thing to note here about all of these, measurements is that this is the text block right here. These are the text block measurements. So the long measurement is the long measurement on the outside of the text block. This here is the height of this first page here. And then the block thickness is the thickness of the text block at the, I usually do it around the midpoint. And then I have the spine width measurement. And I've found that breaking these two measurements out is really helpful because when you cut your hole in your liner that is going to be the tab that's attached to your block, if you go by the block thickness at the midpoint, your liner is going to be really tight because the spine this way is a longer measurement than the actual thickness of your block. So this spine width measurement is, a tailor's tape measurement across the block this way. And one thing I wanted to note too is all of these measurements are done once I have hopefully you can see that. So I already have my headbands here and my ribbons attached, as well as my spine reinforcement. You can kind of see that here, as well as my Oxford hollow. My Oxford hollow is already attached. So all of those measurements should be done, right before you're ready to start, cutting your liner. So again, these are all of the block measurements that I've already taken. And here is just the math. So the math is really the important part. So if you've tuned out as I'm talking about the block measurements and you're a new rebinder trying to learn how to do this, the math here is really important. So this true size large measurement is, this right here. So this measurement here is, the height. So this is the height of the liner if I was just going to cover the Bible, not include anything like fold over, not include anything like yap. So this value right here is what I just named the tab add, or the tab addition. So this needs to be added to the long measurement to make up for the tab liner material that is folded over underneath the cover. You need to add some to the long measurement to compensate for that. Otherwise, your cover is going to be short on this side, but it's going to fit well, on the top side. So you need to add, some for your tab. So I've rebound. This will be my fourth rebind with this liner material. So I know that 3/16 is enough for this liner material. So your liner material might be a little bit thicker and you're going to have to add a little bit more. But Bibles by Drew recommended starting with 3/16 in his, and that's just what he uses. I started with that and it worked great. So I'm not going to change it unless I, change the liner material that I use. So another key point is that you only need to add this tab addition to the long measurement, right here. So that's why I have this little dash here. I'm not adding it to the height. So then you need to add whatever you want to do for your yap. So I want a 3/8 inch yap on this, which means that on the long measurement, I need to add 3/8 inch for one side and 3/8 inch for the other side. And then here for the height, I need to add 3/8 inch for the 3/8 of an inch for the top and 3/8 of an inch for the bottom. So 3/8 times 2 is 3/4. So that's why that is added to both sides. So one thing to mention here, a lot of rebinders will add a little bit for hubs, and I have not done that. For my rebinds, I don't find it necessary. Maybe because I tool the cover down around the hub material so that it's flush. I have no idea why it works for me, why this works for me and doesn't work for other people. But just so you know, if you're starting out, some people add just a little bit, maybe an eighth of an inch or a 16th for the hubs, because if your hubs are really thick and you don't tool your hubs very well, so if your hubs are really tall and you don't tool your hubs down to be flush with the rest of the cover, your cover is, when you wrap it around the spine, you're going to find that this overhang is insufficient. So I think that's why some people, I like doing really short hubs. These are short and wide. I've started doing hubs that aren't as tall, or aren't as wide, but I like the really short hubs. So that might be why, I don't need to add it for mine. So now, with this addition made, with this math done, that gets me to 15 and 9/16. And then here I had 9 and 15/16, and I just rounded up to 10 inches. So that's something good to know when you're doing these measurements. If you're kind of on the cuff, like should I round down to the 16th, the nearest 16th, or should I round up to the nearest eighth? I would always recommend just rounding up just a little bit if you're kind of unsure, because a cover that's a little bit too big and not, perfect on every side down to the 16th, that's okay. But a cover that is smaller by a 16th, you don't want that. So if you're starting to gather these measurements and you find that one measurement is kind of on the edge, I would recommend just going with the larger measurement. So this right here is my final liner size. And in another video I'm planning on doing, I'll do the process of me actually cutting all of this out, but I wanted to explain these values ahead of time just because I'm doing it now. It's on my brain, and hopefully this will be helpful. So this is my final liner size. This is not my final cover leather size because I need to add a 1/4 inch to this on every side, or I guess on this side it would be a 1/2 of an inch, and on this side it would be a 1/2 of an inch. I need to add enough cover leather to do that 1/4 inch fold over. But this is a good liner measurement, and I know that it's good because when I did this before, I took note of all of my measurements, so I can tell, one of my measurements is a little bit different, but I think that's going to be okay, because I did remeasure my long measurement and I found that it was a little bit bigger, which is fine. But since I have all of these measurements already recorded and I can go back and reference, I know that I didn't add an extra inch or an extra 1/2 inch or something significant. So those are some tips for how to measure for a Bible rebind, at least the liner. So obviously the cover leather is going to be a little bit different. But if you are new at rebinding, I am here to help. So if you have any questions about how to measure and cut leather for a Bible rebind, I would be joyed to help you in the comments or over direct message. So thank you for tuning in. This is Ethan from exfidebibles.
You do know.